Most often, when people think of global warming, they only think of the land and air pollution. But in contrast to popular belief, the world's oceans pay a heavy price as well. As a result, animals worldwide are suffering. Global warming is the gradual increase in the overall temperature of the Earth's atmosphere and oceans. This issue is generally related to the greenhouse effect that is caused by increased levels of carbon dioxide, chlorofluorocarbons, and many other pollutants. The greenhouse effect is when carbon dioxide and these other pollutants collect in the atmosphere and absorb the sunlight and solar radiation that have bounced off the Earth's surface. Most of the time, the radiation escapes, but the pollutants can last for centuries in the atmosphere, trap heat, and cause the planet to get hotter. Global warming is mainly blamed on the burning of fossil fuels because they release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Any gas that contributes to this greenhouse effect by absorbing the infrared radiation is known as a greenhouse gas. In the United States, the burning of fossil fuels to make electricity is the biggest source of heat-trapping pollution. Although this acts as a huge cause of global warming, agriculture, land clearing, and many more human activities are also responsible for the rising temperatures as well. Global warming affects many different aspects of the world. One of them is the oceans. For the past 200 years or so, since the Industrial Revolution, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has increased. The ocean absorbs about 30% of this carbon dioxide that is released into the atmosphere. When carbon dioxide is dissolved by the seawater, it becomes more acidic. This problem is affecting many different oceanic species, including the Sepia officinalis, more regularly known as the common cuttlefish. The mantle of a cuttlefish can reach a maximum length of 45 centimeters. The mantle is the main body region that is above their eyes, and it covers the cuttlebone, reproductive organs, and digestive organs. Along the entire span of the mantle, cuttlefish possess a pair of flat fins that undulate rapidly when swimming. The head is located at the bottom of the mantle, and it has two large eyes on either side of it. It also has sharp beak-like jaws at the center base of its arms. They have 8 arms and 2 longer tentacles for capturing prey that can be completely retracted into the body. The cuttlebone can also be called the cuttlefish bone and is a very important internal structure to this species because it plays a dominant role in their buoyancy. It is a set of multiple tiny chambers that can be filled or emptied of gas. This feature is unique to cuttlefish only, hence its name. The cuttlebone is porous and composed primarily of calcium carbonate. It provides cuttlefish with more control over their buoyancy because it is regulated by the changing of the gas-to-liquid ratio in the chambered cuttlebone. Chromatophores are a type of skin cell found on the outside of a cuttlefish's body. They give them the ability to change color and texture to camouflage themselves with different surroundings. These small structures are filled with colored ink, which can be expanded and contracted to communicate with others or mimic their background landscape. Cuttlefish are also able to camouflage themselves at rapid speeds in order to protect themselves from predators. The reproductive cycle for cuttlefish occurs year-round, and the typical mating months are March and June. Cuttlefish are dioecious species, meaning that they have separate male and female sexes. The male sperm gets transferred to the female by an arm that has been modified for mating. Cuttlefish lay large eggs that are about 6 to 9 millimeters in diameter. They are stored in the oviduct, which are then deposited in clumps on the bottom of the sea. The duration of the embryonic development is dependent upon temperature, but it ranges between 30 and 90 days. The eggs are also covered with ink, which helps them to blend into their background. When the young finally hatch, they have a nutritious yolk that supports them until they are able to find food on their own. Cuttlefish inhabit sandy or muddy areas and can easily tolerate brackish waters. Both adults and young bury in the sand during the span of the day. The common cuttlefish can be found throughout the Northeast and East Atlantic Ocean, the Baltic Seas, and the Mediterranean Sea, extending from the Shetland Islands and Norway through the Mediterranean Sea and as far south as South Africa. Cuttlefish catch their prey by first camouflaging themselves using their color-changing structures. Then they ambush their prey when they are least expecting it. Their feeding tentacles are quick, and the suckers on the ends of them help them to grasp their prey more firmly. The common cuttlefish mainly feast on crustaceans like crabs and shrimp, mollusks like snails and clams, and other small fish. The food web shows the predator-prey relationship between the cuttlefish and the rest of its community. When the web is broken down into a food chain, there are 5 levels. Algae and plankton are the producers because they are able to make their own food. The producers are consumed by the primary consumers, which are the mollusks, crabs, and shrimp. That level is then consumed by the seals, cuttlefish, and seabirds that are known as the secondary consumers. Sharks and dolphins are the tertiary consumers because they consume the secondary consumers and are at the top of the food chain. Lastly, zooplankton and phytoplankton are the decomposers, and they can be seen at any level because they break down everything. Ocean acidification is not currently a significant issue for cuttlefish. They are actually quite tolerant to carbon dioxide. This is due to their great ability to stabilize their own pHs so well. Ocean acidification affects the metabolism of marine organisms. Animals have to be able to compensate for the increase in acidity due to carbon dioxide, and if they are unable to do so, they will die out. Unfortunately, studies have been done with acidity in cuttlefish, and the results showed that low pH levels affect the developmental stages of cuttlefish. It took away the permeability properties of the eggshells, and a denser cuttlebone was formed. If the cuttlefish eggs are not permeable, hazardous substances could get past the shell and into the egg. The denser cuttlebone throws off a cuttlefish's buoyancy, causing the efficiency of their swimming to decline. Both of these effects of ocean acidification are very negative and could lead to the endangerment or even extinction of the species. One great way to decrease the emissions that are causing ocean acidification would be by switching from a non-renewable energy source like coal to a sustainable energy source like nuclear energy. Sustainable energy is energy from a source that is able to sustain itself for a long period of time. So what is nuclear energy? It is the energy released during nuclear fission or fusion, especially when used to generate electricity. Nuclear power plants work by splitting uranium atoms inside a reactor in a process called fission. At a nuclear energy facility, the heat from fission is used to produce steam, which spins a turbine to generate electricity. Nuclear energy is also a good alternative fuel source because it is much more powerful than many other energy sources. A single uranium fuel pellet the size of a pencil eraser contains the same amount of energy as 17,000 cubic feet of natural gas, 1,780 pounds of coal, or 149 gallons of oil. Although nuclear power plants let off radiation, the levels are monitored and maintained. The cost to build nuclear power plants may be high, but their operation is very cheap. On top of that, nuclear energy is the only clean air source of energy that produces electricity 24 hours a day, every day. Global warming has caused many problems, and ocean acidification is one of them. Even though it may not seem like an issue now, it will be in the future if action is not taken. Not only are the oceans taking a toll, but the animals that live in them are as well. Nuclear power is just one of the many ways in which people can help decrease the effects of global warming.